Hi guys, this is Nengi and I want to thank you for sticking around and watching my series of videos that talk about digital currency. If you are just landing on this video, then I would highly suggest that you go back and start out with the first video. The reason why, it's because this is a series of videos. So we start out with what digital, virtual, and cryptocurrencies are. And then we talk about the background that sets up the use of digital currencies. And then in the third video, we come to the well-known Bitcoin. And that's what most people have heard. That's what most people are interested in. And that's the dominating digital currency at the moment. So in this video, we're going to talk about the challenges that are facing Bitcoin. So as you know, Bitcoin was created by a guy called Satoshi Nakamoto. And when he invented this digital currency, he actually set a block limit size. If you are not familiar with blockchain, so the way transactions are done for Bitcoin, they're actually recorded in this distributed ledger. So when I send Bitcoin from me to somebody else, it's not an electronic wire being sent. It's just a transaction is created in a ledger. And this ledger is available to everyone that actually has a client or, is running that protocol or program, right? So really, what happens is when you make a transaction, it gets recorded on the blockchain. And each block has a limit. And back then, Satoshi set it at 1 megabyte. And so when you think about it, what really goes into a transaction? What goes into a transaction are the details of the sender, and the receiver, and then the actual amount that you are sending. Now, those three pieces to one transaction don't sound as much. But with this increased use, like there are a lot more transactions happening per second, this amount is overwhelming the limit size that was put together by Satoshi. And the reason why he put that limit size on that block is so that hackers don't attack it and take down the system. But now, on the other side, a lot more people are using Bitcoin. So there are a lot more transactions. In that one block size, you can probably fit like 7 transactions. So imagine thousands and thousands of transactions waiting to be confirmed, and the block size there's just not enough bandwidth. So the number one challenge facing Bitcoin is the block size limit. And with that comes another problem. Because there are so many transactions and they're all sitting in queue, it becomes slower and slower and slower. Some people, it takes even days to have a transaction confirmed. And the other problem that's raised by this block size limit is really the fees. So now the fees go up. And miners can say, hey, if you pay me double, I'll put your transaction to the top of the queue. So that creates an environment that really wasn't the vision of what Satoshi had in mind. So number one was the block size limit. Number two, as some of you may have witnessed, you may not have witnessed this, but there was some differences between between miners, between groups, in regards to this. Like, how do we go about solving this problem? How do we go about scaling this, making this bigger? When you find yourself in an environment that is decentralized, it's really empowering because it's a democracy. Everyone has their opinion, and you don't make a decision until we're all on board. The only problem with that is that here you are trying to make a decision, which is critical, yet people are not in agreement. So here you are stuck. You pretty much cannot make a decision. And as we saw, a problem just drags on year in, year out without a resolution because it's decentralized. So granted that we say, oh, Bitcoin is decentralized, rah, 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 it also has an edged sword, because on the other side, you can't really make a decision. There's no central figure to say, hey, you know what? Enough is enough. We're going to solve it this way. So it could be a good thing. It could be a bad thing. The second challenge that Bitcoin is facing is the fact that it's really accepted by fewer merchants. So here you are, you have your Bitcoins, la-di-da, you walk into a store and you're trying to buy a cup of coffee and the person goes, well, we don't accept Bitcoins here. Or you go to a dealership or you go to a retail store. It's just not that many merchants that are currently accepting Bitcoin. I mean, at some point we'll get there, but for now we're just not there. There's actually a documentary, I don't know if it's a documentary or a blog, where someone traveled from one end of the United States to the other end, from east to west, and there was one and far between places where they could use their Bitcoin. But things are changing and they're looking up. The other challenge that we have with Bitcoin is that most governments don't recognize it as a legal tender. Now, you would ask yourself, well, I don't really care. I'm paying this person in Bitcoin. The only issue is if a government doesn't recognize it as legal tender and an issue happens, let's say I pay my rent in Bitcoin and something happens to the Bitcoin and it doesn't get to the landlord, then the landlord will be like, well, you never paid me. So who do you go to get that resolved? You may go to court and be like, they paid me in Bitcoin. You what? Do you see where I'm going with this? And then finally, this is also a key problem, is the wallets where people save Bitcoins can be hacked. The exchanges can be hacked. People's wallets can be hacked, like online wallets. There just needs to be, I feel like, higher security around that in order to really make this a solid currency. Like you don't just drop money. You know what I mean? Like you don't lose your wallet and someone just steals it. It needs to be, I feel like there needs to be a protocol to make this more secure. So as you can see, Bitcoin definitely does have its challenges. I believe down the road, some of these challenges can be overcome, but for the time being, it's just not being used by the masses as fast. And so to address that, I have a surprise video that will talk about a different currency that will actually try and solve all these problems. So I want to thank you for taking the time again to watch this video. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to leave them below, or you can connect with me on Facebook, Twitter, where else am I? Steemit. And you guys enjoy. Bye.